Imagine gaining cultural experiences right from your own home. This is the reality of hosting a high school foreign exchange student. I wish there would have been someone to talk to about hosting when my husband and I started our new adventure. Instead, we were greeted by a local coordinator who's essentially a salesperson for student placement. Becoming a host parent or family can be both exciting and nerve wracking. It is critical to understand the overall process and the potential positives and negatives. What personally connects me to this topic is that my husband and I have spent the last 3 years being a host family. We have welcomed 6 different students into our home from 6 different countries. And prior to starting, we really hadn't done any research. We just kind of went in completely blind. For the first year, that was totally fine and it worked out. But we found out after the second experience that there's a lot more that needs to go into the process up front. So today I'm going to talk about 3 of the main points of the beginning parts of hosting that I think are the most important. The first thing we're going to start with is the overall process in getting started with is basically going to come down to the organization you choose, and what that really means for you. The second thing that I will talk about are the potential benefits associated with hosting, and then finally I'll talk about the potential drawbacks associated with hosting. So basically, the one of the most important things in the process is actually going to be the organization. Um, Basically, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of organizations that you can choose from, and it's really going to come down to making sure you pick an organization that meets your needs. Luckily, there is an organization itself called the Council on Standards for International Educational Travel, which basically is an organization that holds all of the hosting organizations to a very set standards. This means that you can go to this website and find all of the information on different hosting organizations and their potential benefits and drawbacks themselves. Also, as a host family, it's very important to just find an organization that's really going to accommodate your specific needs and the students' needs, because obviously all families are not going to be the same, so the needs are going to be different. Also, a major thing is going to be deciding if you want J1 or an F1 process. As you can see on the screen, there's actually 2 different lists. The list on the left contains the F1 and the list on the right is the J1. Both of these lists are organizations that you can host through. They are organizations that have been deemed of the highest quality of standards, which means that they have been certified to a very set federal regulation. And the F1 students are going to be students who pay to live in your home versus J1, they're students that you basically are volunteering to let into your home. Basically, these lists are going to be a really good starting point for host families to start digging into the different organizations and what to look for versus what not to look for. There could be some that are rooted in religion, some that do not have the religious background, so those might be factors that do come of concern. So basically, it's just really important to make sure that the family knows what you're getting into with the organization instead of just picking something and hoping for the best. I found that this is not very helpful. You end up with a lot of issues both for the family and for the student themselves. All right. And of course, after we understand the importance of selecting the organization, it's time to move into more of the student part, which are going to be the pros and cons. Um, Obviously, the benefits of hosting can be determinants of why or how a family seeks out finding a student to add to their home. Hosting offers a lot of encouragement of connection in the home based on cultural, also in the community. Uh, Hosting really just opens up cultural outlets. It opens up knowing about different cultures, understanding how the American culture is different, and then being able to just build general knowledge. Also, once you have an exchange student in your home, they're there for either 5 or 10 months, and in this time, you develop real relationships. They become family and not just a roommate. So what this means is now in the future, if you want to travel, you have a destination and maybe a tour guide, something to help you. And it's not just this person, you're also gaining an international family. With our students, they the want to visit them has extended past just themselves and into their own family, which comes as a huge benefit for the entire hosting process, because then you've gained family in many different parts of the world versus just confined within your home and then the student leaves and that's the end of it. Um, so that's obviously going to be huge. And then, kind of along with that, a really big benefit is going to be adventure. Hosting can be such an adventure because you get to do things that maybe you wouldn't normally do, but are still fun type of things. Maybe things that are seem more like they're for little kids, or just things that you might take for granted normally in your environment and in your community that an exchange student hasn't ever seen or probably will never see. So you get to kind of just like be spontaneous and adventurous all over again and kind of just be like a little kid, which is super fun. All right. And obviously, there's going to be these great benefits, and they're going to make people want to host, and it's going to look so fun and so exciting. However, there are also drawbacks and negatives that have to be considered before a family just decides that this is what they want to do. So, one of the biggest and most concerning conflicts is actually going to be cultural differences. Obviously, those are something that can be a benefit to learn about culture. However, there are just some differences that can be difficult to overcome. They can be difficult to just get past, which creates tension in the home for not just the family but the student. And obviously, that's just either whether it's 5 months or 10 months, that's a really long commitment to just be uncomfortable all the time. Um, so that's that can be really hard. Also, kind of along with that is we found that through hosting ourselves, the student profiles are not always as accurate as they lead you to believe. For example, my husband and I hosted an exchange student from Germany who, in her profile, has said that she loved cooking and that it was just one of her favorite things to do. And then when she arrived in our home, she had said that she actually didn't know anything about cooking, but the organization just told her that it would make her look better to prospective host families. So basically, what this means is you have to kind of take the profiles just not so seriously. Obviously, some of the information is going to be true, but at the same time, you never actually know how much of it is factual information or how much of it is not really truth. And also, you have to consider that the student might like to cook, but then they come into a foreign home with different food, different things, and they just aren't as comfortable. So basically you're taught to rely on a profile, but really the profiles, they're not really that helpful at times. Then I would say another huge con is going to be being prepared. This kind of goes back to the idea of choosing an organization that fits you, but in general, you can't really be prepared to bring someone into your home. So, what this basically means is you might think you are prepared and you're ready, but really, you're never going to be ready for a strange teenager to come live in your home. No matter how many times you do it, everyone is going to be different culturally and then personality wise. They're just going to be different, which can create some friction at times, and you just have to try to be as prepared as possible, but also know that you're really not as prepared as maybe you should be. And this is just something that I don't think that you could really get past regardless. It just is always going to be there. So basically, what we've talked about today is just understanding the importance of an organization selection, understanding potential benefits, but also taking in the possible drawbacks. Um, Obviously, becoming a host parent can be such a great thing, but it can bring stress, and it's just really important to know how these factors may play out and what it might look like for you in the future. Um, I hope that you gained a lot of information watching this video. I hope that I answered some of the questions, although I know that there's always going to be so many questions. Um, but I hope that you move forward in your journey, and thank you for listening.